We'll continue with the theme around the ANC and its activities around the country. Branches in Mangaung in the Free State have threatened to go to court if the party's Provincial Interim Committee fails to respond to their demands within 2 days. So we'll bring you the latest from that story in just a moment. But for right now, let's go to some political analysis on this. And I want to welcome our analysts, Sandile, Swana and Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast to join the program. And let me kick things off then with you, Sandile. I don't know if you were able to hear what our reporter in the Eastern Cape at that convention centre has been telling us, but you know, the signs certainly seem to be pointing in the direction of this being even more chaotic than 2017 was. What's your assessment?
I think the issue of chaos, I doubt if there'll be physical violence because of the strengthened security at the venue. But there is going to be immense checking and double checking and checking again of the credentials, because basically this conference is going to boil down to an election. It's going to boil down to who gets power. Any other activities is a side issue.
And I'd love your thoughts then as an opening, Dr. Breakfast.
Yeah, so I think this is a neck and neck race. At the same time, I think it's quite difficult to see which way the wind is blowing. I think the outcome can go either way. At the same time, I think that Oscar Mabuyane has two strategic advantages. Namely, it's got the state machinery, meaning that he can dish out favors in exchange for votes. Over and above that, he's got an alliance with the president, who is seen as a darling of capital, meaning that he also has access to money. You know as well as I do that most conferences of the ANC are won by buying votes. So it begs the question as to what influences the behavior of human beings. Is it principles or is it money? So I do not attach too much value to numbers at the moment, because the terrain is fluid. It doesn't mean that because you've been given a mandate at branch level, you to carry that mandate and cross the river, even though there are crocodiles. So there will be a lot of... I beg your pardon?
Well, I was just going to interject and say, so you believe the claim that's made by Babalo Madikizela that there will be money in exchange for votes, and that, you know, comrades should be vigilant against that. You think that that's a credible claim he's making?
Of course, that is the political culture of the ANC, despite the fact that he has also been accused of that. So some might argue that he's also at fault in that regard. So that's why I'm saying that I don't want to overplay the issue of numbers at the moment. So it's not over until the fat lady sings or until the fat man sings, if I can be gender sensitive.
Until someone sings, Ntsikelelo. I want to come to you, Sandile, and maybe just reflect on this. You know, it's everything is happening in a context, and it kind of creates these signposts for how we interpret the events that happen in real time. Let's look at the murder of 2 ANC members. You have a ward councillor and a branch secretary recently. The ANC, of course, rejecting that this has anything to do with politics. But how much of an influence do you think this creates, you know, in a context of uncertainty as this PEC goes ahead?
In many parts of the Eastern Cape, in recent years, call it 5-6 years, there has been political matters related to such conferences, such elections of ANC leaders who have been killed. Secondly, we also know that in the areas of Port Elizabeth and Uitenhage, in those areas and elsewhere, there's been interlinkages now between gangsters, organized crime, and the ANC leaders. So assassinations, political assassinations, extortion, intimidation is happening, sometimes happening during office hours. One of those, I think she's in the Mabuyane slate. We saw her on this video circulating, being dragged on the floor. So it's been tough getting up to this point. There is intimidation, there is corruption that is going on, there's bribery, there's all sorts of things going on.
I mean, when you unpack it in the way that the pair of you have, it really does cement, this idea of the ANC at the moment in history in which it stands now as really in a way being debased or debasing itself. Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast, would you concur with that assessment? And if you do, how else, what other room to maneuver do they have in running a clean ship, politically speaking?
Are you referring to the recent political killings in PE?
I'm referring to the political killings. We're looking at, the level of factionalism and its heights in the ANC, where, the election of a provincial chairperson has the ability to sway the way the leadership battle is won or lost.
I think throughout history, the ANC has had ups and downs, but the conflicts that have broken out of late have nothing to do with the strategic direction of the ANC. They have to do with who stands a chance of benefiting the material gains. The ANC says that the recent political killings have nothing to do with the conference that is held at the moment. But I take that with a pinch of salt, because there have been a number of operations of political killings. Normally, these political killings have to do with access to political power, because if you have access to political power, then you have access to economic resources. But also, I think those who are involved in these operations normally want to convey a message to their political competitors to back off. So they don't want any threat that is posed to them.
Yeah. As the pair of you are talking, and this conversation has been impaled on the subject of personal political rivalry at provincial and national level, if we consider that the survival or the relevance of a political party should be predicated on its value to the society in which it operates, that of course has become the lesser discussion that we're having. Should it not be front and center, Sandile, for your comment first, and then Ntsikelelo for yours, the reason that justifies its existence, shouldn't that be where the focus is when chairpersons or treasurer generals or provincial elective are elected?
The ANC in the Eastern Cape has been a very unfortunate phenomenon from the 1990s. The ANC has failed to provide economic leadership and prosperity in the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape is failing in every measure, economically, in education. It's difficult to identify something that the Eastern Cape is successful in. Politically, the politics of the Eastern Cape about political power in the Eastern Cape, specifically contest about tenders and so on, and then manipulating national politics as who becomes president, who becomes the NEC, who becomes the top six. That has been their understanding of politics since the 1990s. So Mhlaba and so on and so forth, they've done absolutely nothing for the ordinary people, totally divorced from the bread and butter issues of the people of the Eastern Cape.
Dr. Breakfast, your closing thoughts?
Yeah, I also think that the ANC has fallen short since 1994 in terms of promoting development for the majority of the people of the Eastern Cape. What we normally see is that when people ascend to the helm of power, they use the state machinery to dish out favors to their own henchmen in exchange for support in order for them to hold on to power.
Well, actually, I've just been given an early Christmas present. I've got a few more minutes to spend with you, gentlemen. So let's tease out some of the other themes as well. So the regional conference was interdicted from going ahead last month. There were allegations, and you alluded to that, around membership manipulation and procedural errors in the run-up to the conference. Again, this is a recurring theme for other provincial executive conferences that we have seen over the last couple of weeks. How does this speak to a return, and you might say it never was there, but a return to discipline and good governance within these really key and crucial elective processes?
If I were to say something about this, the problem that we have is that since 2017, They have said that they are going to start a new membership system that is foolproof, that cannot be cheated, and so on and so forth. Yet there are branches that are non-compliant. There are members that are non-compliant as we speak in this conference right now. So the whole issue of them saying that they are creating a credible system, because the biggest problem in the ANC is that the leadership selection problem, the leadership selection process is fraught. It has got problems. And the problems are that the branches are fake branches, the members are fake members. For instance, even the overtaking of the Eastern Cape by KZN as the biggest province and so on and so forth is something that still needs a big audit. So that is where all of these things are seated. The administrative processes inside the ANC are highly questionable as we speak today.
You know, Dr. Breakfast, under pressure, a fissure becomes a chasm. And given these fissures that we're observing with these various conferences, what is it likely to look like for the ANC come elective conference?
Yeah, I think the possibility that the ANC might lose power in the upcoming general elections is not far-fetched unless there's a change of heart or a change of gear. Because clearly, I mean, the way things are is not the way things should be. So if the ANC cannot function as a unit, I don't think that people by and large will vote for it. So it doesn't matter who gets elected in the upcoming elective conference of the ANC. So long as we have these internal political dynamics, that person will be hamstrung by those issues.
I may have asked this question before, but I'll ask it again, Sandile. You know, if the ANC is to save itself, is to take these observations that are being made, and in fact the realities of what happens at conferences, and given again this climate of murder in which it's operating and some of its members are experiencing, what could they do, even at this late stage, and as I said, given the complexity of the problems, do to rescue themselves from the kind of fate that Dr. Breakfast is describing?
The problem here is that, let's say, for instance, you are Cyril Ramaphosa and you wanted peace inside the ANC. If you wanted some form of peace and unity in the ANC, then basically it means that the people who believe in stealing money and stealing tenders need to be accommodated. The people who like to make dockets to disappear and cases to disappear need to be accommodated. That's the only way you can build unity in the ANC and peace. That is how they've gotten united. They've been a protection racket. That unity in the ANC has been about being a protection racket from prosecution. If you do not do that, the ANC is going to be divided and the ANC is going to lose power. So they've got no other solution. Either they get out of power, they'll become probably 40% of the size that they are and become a substantially smaller party of disciplined cadres without power largely. Those are the two options they have.
And on those two options is where we will leave it. Thank you very much for your time and analysis. We appreciate it. Sandile, Swana and Dr. Ntsikelelo. Breakfast.